This is a special chapter of my devlog about how Moons of Darsalon was made, in which I will focus on a single topic: how I created the sound for the ships, which resembles that of the TIE fighters, one of the most iconic sounds in cinematic history. Although it's been discussed how this sound was made, no one has told you how to recreate it. By the end of this video, you will know how to recreate the TIE sound. Not a similar one, but one that's 99% identical. I'm not exaggerating, and you can verify this at the end of the video. On this website, it explains how Joe Johnston, the storyboard writer for Star Wars: A New Hope, had a clear idea that the TIE fighters should sound menacing, just like the German Wodawowi-2 Stuka bombers, which had a siren-like device designed to create a terrifying noise with the sole purpose of instilling fear. Johnston passed this concept on to Ben Burtt, the sound designer for Star Wars: A New Hope. Burtt said in an interview that he had drawn inspiration for the TIE fighters from the noises made by elephants in the film The Roots of Heaven. He recorded his own sounds and then combined them with the sound of cars driving through water. Remember this, he drew inspiration from that movie and then recorded his own. Now, on this other website, you can read what he said. But Burtt figured out how to make them sound just as frightening. He turned to The Roots of Heaven. Burtt sampled the movie's elephant noises and slowed them down. This is strange. Didn't the other website say that Ben Burtt took inspiration from the sounds in the movie and then recorded his own? Now it turns out he didn't, that he sampled them and slowed them down. Okay, let's continue. But then he hit upon the idea of mixing them with the sound of cars on wet pavement. Swoosh, the car would come by, and you heard this car plowing through the water. I took that sound, still thinking that I was making a laser of some kind. I had really put it in because I had no other alternative, but it got great reviews, so naturally, it became the sound of the TIE fighters. Fascinated, like many others, by this specific sound, I remember reading this a long time ago somewhere else, and I remember thinking, wow, what a magical combination. I would never have guessed that such a sound would come from mixing two sources that are so different and apparently have nothing to do with the final result. But as he tells it, it makes sense. If you listen closely, the main body of the TIE sound does resemble the noise of a car passing quickly, varying in frequency due to the Doppler effect. However, they must have been very specific sound sources to achieve such an otherworldly result. Let's listen to some cars passing by. Nothing special. Boring. They are very far from what the TIE sound is. The previous sound was better. Yes, but even though it's slightly better, it's still too far from what we're looking for. Now let's listen to some elephants. To get closer to the sound we're looking for, we need to avoid the trumpet-like sounds elephants make and focus on the growls. Let's check out a few examples. That was okay. This wasn't exactly what we were looking for. This one is a bit similar, but nope. That was great, but needs to be longer. Wow, nice, but it's still not perfect. Oh, wow, we almost got it. Let's listen to another source. We realize that we need an elephant roar that maintains a high intensity over time. And one more sound source. Wow, these have the same initial howl tone and maintain the final roar quite well. With just some of these sounds, you could already recreate a very, very similar TIE fighter sound. Using simple looping techniques, you can extend them over time to create long flybys. However, I haven't misled you. This video is going to show you how to virtually recreate the exact same sound as the TIE fighters. Not just a pretty similar one, but 99% identical. And for that, let's now listen to the elephant sounds from the movie that Ben Burtt took inspiration from. Do you hear that? Isn't it exactly the same sound? They use it all the time. It can't be. He said he only drew inspiration, not that he used the same ones. Oh wait, that's not what happened. What actually happened is that he sampled the sounds from the movie and slowed them down. But they don't sound slowed down, they sound exactly the same. So what did Ben Burtt actually do? Okay, from here on, everything is speculation. But I hope you agree with me that my theory is solid enough to consider valid, and that the sound you're about to achieve is virtually identical to the Star Wars TIE Fighter sound. My theory? I'm afraid that Ben Burtt didn't record his own elephant sounds, nor did he sample the movie The Roots of Heaven by 20th Century Fox and slow them down. Instead, he watched the movie, and since Star Wars was also financially supported by 20th Century Fox, he may have had access to the original sound libraries of 20th Century Fox, which were probably also used by the creators of The Roots of Heaven. Or perhaps the latter did record their own elephant sounds, which were then made available to 20th Century Fox, who used them to expand their special effects library, later shared with all the films they produced, including Star Wars. We have to remember that this was a different era. It's not like today. Back then, you could hear the same sound effects in countless movies because it seems that everyone relied on the few sources of special effects available. This contributed to many sounds becoming iconic, especially gunfire effects. And why am I so sure that the sound was part of the 20th Century Fox library? Because in 1990, Sound Ideas, the company dedicated to publishing collections of sound effects and music for media, released the 20th Century Fox Sound Effects Library, created under a special agreement with 20th Century Fox. This library provided 1,360 sounds that were used in the company's classic films.
Sound Ideas is proud to present the 20th Century Fox Sound Effects Library. Get out the popcorn, because now you can count on Sound Ideas to bring to life the sounds that have helped launch so many 20th Century Fox motion pictures and make them legendary hits.
Oh my God. And that's where the TIE Fighter sound appears?
No.
Ah, I know. There are animal sounds, including elephants, and among them is the one they use for the TIE Fighter.
No. Well, yes, but not really.
What?
There is an elephant sound, more specifically a baby elephant sound, and it's quite similar to the exact sound the TIE Fighter makes, but it's not the same.
So why are you telling us all this crap about this sound library?
Because the elephant sound used for the TIE Fighter is there, but it's hidden. If you go to the track list, in the animal section, a bit further down from the baby elephant sound, you find this mysterious track called Monster. Several screams. Creature. And if you hit play, it sounds like... Bingo. Any differences between this sound and the final sound in Star Wars are just the additions Ben Burtt made with the sound of a car passing over wet asphalt, adding a hiss. But these are just small cosmetic touches in the TIE Fighter sound, with this elephant sound being the core that everyone recognizes. However, these sounds are somewhat short. They're not long enough to make a long TIE Fighter flyby, and much less for it to sound constantly, like I do in Moons of Darsalon, where the ship's engine is always running. But I'm not going to cover how to extend this sound infinitely without the loop being noticeable in this video. That will be covered in the chapter dedicated to the game's sound. So basically, there you have it. For just $595, or if the 50% discount is still active at the time of making this video, it would be $298. You could legally replicate the iconic TIE Fighter sound in your video game. But what if your budget doesn't stretch that far? Well, I don't know what you're doing making video games, my friend. In this business, you shell out money, then more money, and then even more money. And in the end, when you release the game, the one making money is Steam. And maybe your publisher. Although, I'm keeping a secret. Because even if your budget is super tight, you could legally replicate the TIE Fighter sound for just $5. How? Well, I'll only reveal that if there's enough interest. Let's say if this video reaches 5,000 views and my YouTube account hits 2,000 subscribers. So you know what to do. Click like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your grandma. Create a YouTube account for your dog. Write a script in Python to make fake accounts. or do all of that at the same time. And that's the end of Chapter 9 of how Moons of Darsalon was made. See you in the next video.